ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। ब्रह्म वा इदमग्रे आसीत् तदात्मानम् एव अवेत् अहं ब्रह्मास्मीति तस्मात् तत्सर्वम् अभवत् तद् यो यो देवानां प्रत्यबुध्यत स एव तद् अभवत् तथा ऋषीणां तथा मनुष्याणां तद्धैतत् पश्यन् ऋषिः वामदेवः प्रतिपेदे अहं मनुः अभवं सूर्यश्चेति तदिदमपि एतर्हि य एवं वेद अहं ब्रह्मास्मीति स इदं सर्वं भवति तस्य न देवांश्च अनाभूत्या ईशते आत्मा ह्येषां स्वभवति अथ यो अन्यां देवताम् उपास्ते अन्यः असौ अन्यः अहमस्मीति न स वेद यथा पशुः एवं स देवानां यथा हवै बहवः पशवः मनुष्यं भुञ्ज्युः एवं एकैकः पुरुषः देवान् भुनक्त्येकस्मिन् एव पशवादीयमाने अप्रियं भवति किमु बहुषु तस्मादेषां तन्न प्रियं यदेतन्मनुष्या विद्युः. So we are now looking at the Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi. So this is the Yajurveda Mahavakya. We already discussed that Mahavakya is nothing but an equation where Aham and Brahma are equated, means there is identity between these two. Now Aham, if we take the meaning, normal meaning, the worldly people, how they understand I and how they understand Brahma. I is looked upon as an individual, limited in all respects. Brahma is looked upon as the Jagat Karanam, cause of everything, which is having everything limitless. Limitless knowledge, limitless power, all pervading, limitless in all aspects. So then obviously the question is, how can there be identity between I and Brahma? How can you say Aham Brahmasmi? Means then we have to understand in any equation there are apparent contradictions are there. Otherwise you don't require an equation. Understand that. It will be too obvious. Nobody needs to give an equation 1 equal to 1. So we have to arrive at the identity always. So here how do we arrive at the identity? See, the Aham, which normally we take as the limited being who is confined to the body, mind, sense complex. If we analyze that properly, we can see that the body, mind, sense complex cannot be really called as Aham, because I cannot be what I see. Whatever I see is not I. It's a very simple analysis. Anybody can do it. You can contemplate, you can do even meditation and contemplate on this. Whatever I see is not I. I see my body. I am not the body. Okay. And all my physiological processes are evident to me. Therefore, I am not those things. All the thoughts which are happening in my mind are evident to me. I see them. Therefore, I am not all these thoughts. Even thinking, in fact, my Guruji used to say, very interestingly, since you know that you are sad, it is a good thing. because you are not sadness also then. You know that you are sorrowful means even you are not sorrow then. Sorrow and all is evident to you. So sadness, sorrowness, whatever you call it, all these things also, since you know that it is becoming evident to you, it is not you. That's all. You can process it that way also. One way of processing it is what? Even all these mental states with which you normally identify yourself. But all of them are becoming evident to you. So you are none of those things. Means finally, even without taking recourse to any other pramana, by just analyzing based on this simple fact that whatever I see is not I can arrive at the fact that I am a conscious being who is invariable in every cognition. Understand that. I am the invariable in every cognition. I am the one who is conscious. And if nothing is to be cognized also, I am still there as a conscious being. Understand that. So, the status of being a witness also is only transient. Understand that. I am a conscious being. If something is there to be cognized, I cognize it. If nothing is there to be cognized, I am there as I am. That is deep sleep. Understand that. When the mind resolves, you are still there because I slept, I am awake, I am dreaming. The I never goes away anywhere. Understand that. I is always the conscious being. This I is the invariable in all cognitions. If you look at an apple, apple consciousness is. If you look at your laptop, laptop consciousness is. If you look at the table, table consciousness is. If you look at the sun, sun consciousness is. If you look at your clock, time consciousness is. If you look at the vast sky, space consciousness is. In all these things, consciousness is the invariable, which is you. The consciousness is what you are. You are a conscious being who is the invariable, who can never be negated. Understand that. So I told you even last time that one scientist came to my Guruji and he told that nobody can define truth. Then my Guruji said, I can define truth for you. And he told that which can never be negated in all three periods of time, that which is the same in all three periods of time and which can never be negated in all three periods of time, that is truth. That's how in fact Bhashyakara also defines Satyam in the Taittiriya Bhashya. Yadrupena yen nishchitam bhavati tadrupena tanna vyabhicharati. That which never changes its nature. You have ascertained something to be of a particular nature, that it never changes from that. It can never be negated. That which can never be negated in any period of time. That is truth. Then that scientist, overnight he thought about it and then he came back next day and said, yeah, I agree. This definition I cannot break. That which can never be negated alone can be truth, correct? Obviously. All other things are negated. You say there is solid. I can negate and say no, only 99% space is there at atomic level. So if you change your vision, everything is negatable. Understand that. Whatever you see as this variegated world, all can be reduced to particles and all that. So everything which you cognize can be negated because they come and go also. They are not there all the time. Whatever is cognized as an object, that object keeps on changing. Consciousness is the invariable. And that consciousness can never be negated also. Okay, because what happened? He came next day, that person to my Guruji. He said, okay, you have given a definition for truth which I can accept. But then there is nothing like that. There is nothing which can be called as the truth. So how are you going to now teach me what is truth? If there is no truth, there is nothing which can fit the definition you have given. Like this, that person came back again. Then Swamiji has to tell him, he told him, hey, you can negate everything, but what about the negator? The negator can never be negated. Understand that. Even in Brhadaranyaka, later on we will see Neti Neti. So it is not this, not this, not this. Because what? Everything which is an object is not you. It is not the ultimate truth. But the negator can never be negated. Understand that. Vacuum also is there, only physically. But the observer of the vacuum has to be there to say there is vacuum, means then what about that observer? Consciousness has to be there everywhere. Understand that. So even physical vacuum people can talk about, but it's not really a vacuum. Consciousness has to be there everywhere. Without the observer, nothing is there. And that is you. So you are a conscious being fundamentally. Okay, but what about limitation? This is where Shruti Pramana is required. Understand that. Now Shruti comes and tells two things. To arrive at the fact that I am a conscious being who is always there with reference to cognitions, you don't require any other pramana. This we can arrive at ourselves. Then where does the requirement for the Veda as a pramana, as a means of knowledge come in? Veda only has to come and say, hey, whatever this Jagat you see, for this Jagat there is a Karanam. That Jagat Karanam is Brahma. Janmadhyasya Yataha. Sutra, Brahma Sutra also is there. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, ye najatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. So yato va imani bhutani jayante. All these beings are born from which? Yena jatani jivanti, by which all these things are living, are sustained, and into which all these things will resolve. Yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. That is Brahman, Jagat Karanam. There is a Jagat Karanam Vastu. Again, to establish that there is a cause for this universe, you require Veda as a means of knowledge. It cannot be established logically. Let me tell you. Although in our tradition, the Nayayikas did make a valiant effort, but fundamentally itself there is a problem. You cannot establish that the world itself is a creation. Understand that. Although a lot of creationists talk about intelligent design and all that, that is all only a supporting logic. Logically, you cannot first establish the world as a creation, then how can you even talk about creator? And even if you talk about a creator, you can still not establish only one creator has to be there and all that. So there are, logic can only go so far. Understand that. So here we have to accept the Veda as a pramana. Veda says there is Brahman, which is Jagat Karana. But what is the nature of that Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is Satyam, that which is there in all periods of time. Okay, then is it Jadam? Is it insentient? No, Jnanam. It is of the nature of consciousness. But normally, existence and consciousness in our understanding is limited by space-time. Understand that, because we can only understand existence within the confines of space-time. Similarly, sentiency also we are understanding within the confines of space-time. Knowledge means we think it is some activity, mental activity is involved. Okay, knowing as an activity. But here it is abstract. Existence here only points out to the Brahman as something which is existent but not within space-time. It is existence as it is. How can you say something can exist without space-time? Hey, you exist in deep sleep, correct? There is no space-time in deep sleep. Your existence is not dependent on any space-time or anything. Understand that. You are. Whether space-time is there or not, you can even create a totally new space-time, your dream world. And again come back to another space-time, which is the waking world. Again go into some other space-time, your lucid dreaming, whatever. So, space-time is not a big deal. And your existence is not in space-time. That is true eternal. Understand that. Eternal means not long time. Anything in time will end with time. So it is not eternal. Eternal is something which is free from time. Similarly, all pervading is not that you are spreading all over in the space. That is not correct. Then what about space itself? In fact, that which transcends space, that in which space and time are existent, that is you. That is what is all pervasive, immortal. Correct? You as a conscious being, you transcend both space-time. Understand this. And again, this has to be understood. This experience of being space-time free is available to everybody every night. So experience is not a problem. Understand this. Many people confuse. Vedanta is not asking you to get some new special experience or anything. In fact, experience is dumb. You may be experiencing me sitting near me without knowing who I am, correct? So experience is not a problem. In fact, with reference to self, nobody can claim that I am not experiencing myself. So self-experience is always there as a conscious being, but there is confusion, there is wrong notion. So what is required is right knowledge. The ignorance has to go away. Experience is not a solution. Experience is dumb. In fact, experience is there, but it has to be known properly. It has to be taught. So I am, as a conscious being, I transcend space-time. I am not limited by any of this space-time, this body, mind, sense complex, nothing. Okay, what about Brahman? Brahman also same thing. Because it says, Tasmad Atmana Akasha Sambhutaha. Taittiriya Upanishad says, from this Atma, which is Brahman. See, it started with Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And then, but it switched. Nicely it switched saying, Tasmad Etasmad. From this Brahman, which is Atma, this Akasha came. Like that it switches very beautifully. That is also a Mahavakya, in fact. Because the Taittiriya Upanishad section starts, Brahmavida apnoti param tadesha bhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma, like that. Then it switches later on, it says, Tasmad etasmad atmana akasha sambhutaha akashat vayuhu vayor agnihi agnerapaha, like that it goes. It starts talking about creation. So from this Atma, Brahmatma, this Akasha came. From Akasha, Vayu came. From Vayu, Agni came. From Agni, all these waters came. From that again, earth came. From earth again, Oshadhi. All plants were there, and from plants you get food, and from food, your body starts. Because you eat idlis, and dosa only becomes your body, correct? Like that, the Upanishad gives a progression. And again, it gives a beautiful progression. From there again, what? Physical body we think is I, but it points out, no, Anyontara Atma Pranamayaha. Then again, Anyontara Atma Manomayaha, Anyontara Atma Vijnanamayaha, Anyontara Atma Anandamayaha, Brahmapucham Pratishtha. So it completes the cycle. It starts from Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahmatma, becoming Akasha, Vayu, like that. And from that, this earth, all these plants and all that, physical body to physiological process, prana, then mental process, mind, intellect, and then the enjoyer. Ahankara or whatever you can say, the Bhokta, then none of this is really I, in fact, because all these things are becoming evident to me. So I am the conscious being, which is again Brahman alone, this Brahmatma, that is being pointed out beautifully, because when this identity is talked about between Aham and Brahma, we have to account for the creation. Understand that our teaching is complete. It accounts for everything. We do not simply dismiss anything without properly explaining things. So since this world is nothing but an effect and Brahman is the cause, understand this. So we use the Karya Karana Prakriya. In Karya Karana Prakriya, what do we say? Brahman alone was there, infinite, Purna Madaha. From that Brahman, Purnam Idam, Idam Jagat, Idam, this world came. This also is infinite. From that infinite, this infinite came. Okay, so what? So Purna Madaha, Purna Idam, Purnat, Purna Mudachyate. So from that infinite Brahman came this infinite world. Okay, then what? How can there be two infinites? Means this infinite world of name and form doesn't really count. Understand that, because it is mithya, because it is effect. It doesn't really count. It is only an appearance. Like even the pot doesn't really count. You can have 10 pots, but there is only one clay. You can have hundreds and thousands and millions and billions of waves, but there is only one water. So these names and forms are not counted, cannot be counted. What is there is Brahman alone. Brahman alone is really, in fact, the existence. In fact, we are using existence as an adjective, which itself is a tyranny of the language, I think. We use existent pot, existent clay, like that. Existence is not adjective anywhere. In fact, it should be potty existence, clayey existence, atomic existence. Existence alone is. Everything is only a name and form. Understand that you can always reduce it to something else. That means it's all only appearance. The whole world is only an appearance. Every scientist knows that. And where does all this appearance resolve? It resolves into a conscious being, which is yourself. And you are the cause of this entire Srishti, because you are not separate from Brahman. You are the Brahmatma. So this is not something very difficult to understand. In fact, Vedanta is very simple. That's all is the Vedantic teaching. This entire Srishti, the cause of this is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And there is only one Jnanam, one conscious being, that is you. There is no other conscious being. You cannot count a second consciousness. Understand that. There is no second consciousness. There is only one conscious being, which is you. From that alone, this entire Srishti has come. You are that already, in fact, whether you recognize it or not, whether you are sorrowful, whether you are joyful. Teaching is not that you will become Brahma. Understand that. Aham Brahma Asmi. It is not Aham Brahma Bhavishyami. Understand that. It is not that I will become Brahman. I am Brahman with the same body, mind, sense complex. With the same mind, I think I am a stupid person. I am an ignorant person. In fact, you have to only recognize you are neither ignorant nor knowledgeable. Both ignorance and knowledge are evident to which consciousness? That is you. Understand that. You are neither sad nor happy. You are the consciousness to which both sadness and joy is evident. Is that clear? That conscious being is you, which is the source of everything, all happiness also, in fact. That Ananda is different. I am the only thing which I love unconditionally. So I have to be the source of all happiness. I am the one who is Purnaha, who is complete, who is infinite, who does not lack anything. That complete whole conscious being, infinite being is me. I don't lack anything. That is the vision of Vedanta. So that is what you have to contemplate. That's what you have to understand. Here, understanding is the most important thing. Experience is not a problem. Everybody experiences oneself as a conscious being and still makes a mistake. So all these mistaken notions have to go away. That is the main thing. And the one who has understood this, what that person says, that is beautifully said here, correct? So again, this understanding has to be there for anybody, whether you are a devata, you are a rishi, you are a normal human being, whoever you are. Whoever knows this, that's it. Correct? They all have become everything then. Brahma bhavati, Brahmavid Brahmaiva bhavati. So tata rishinam, tata manushyanam. Then what? There is a special rishi, Vamadevaha. Etad Pashyan. Having seen this reality, having known this, then what did he proclaim then? Pratipede. What did he say? Okay. So knowing that Aham Brahmasmi, further what did he know? Or what can he really say? Is that what? Aham Manuhu Abhavam. I was Manu. I am Surya also. Suryascha. That means I am everything. I am the self of everything. That is the result of this knowledge. Because there is only one conscious being which is getting reflected in all the Sukshma Sharira. Like even one sun is getting reflected all over in different reflecting medium and appearing as though there are hundreds and thousands of suns. But there is only one sun, correct? Like that, there is only one conscious being, which is you. And that conscious being is not limited by anything. That conscious being alone appears as everything. It is the self of everything. So you can also say now, Aham Manuhu Abhavam Suryascha iti. Iti you can leave, in fact. That is part of the. So you can say Aham Manuhu Abhavam Suryascha. You can claim that. It is your right. Since you have this knowledge, you have to claim it. This whole thing is only, see, once you learn Vedanta, it is simple, I told you. But the problem is what? Your habitual tendency is to again go back to the individual identity until that self-transformation takes place. And your self-identity has now totally become one with Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That transformation does not take place just like that for everybody. In fact, for 99.99% of the people, it doesn't take place immediately. This insight has to be repeated. This knowledge has to be assimilated. It has to bring about a transformation in you. The way you look upon yourself has to completely change. That takes time. Don't ask me how much and all that. Till that change happens and it becomes natural. How naturally now you think I am a human being, I am limited, etc. Like that, naturally your self-identity should be, I am the limitless consciousness who is the self of all. That has to become your natural identity, self-identity. Till then it has to continue. Whatever is to be done, you have to do. If you have to listen to 1,000 Vedanta classes, do it. If you have to contemplate on this for 30 years, do it. What better thing is there than gaining the limitless? If you do not gain the limitless, the loss is limitless. Understand that. Correct? Nache diha vedit mahati vinashtihi. Kena Upanishad says, if you do not know this, then what is the loss? Loss is mahati. It is limitless, in fact. So there is no other better pursuit than knowing oneself as the limitless. So everything you have to give up pursuing this. Of course, give up in the sense that you have to prioritize properly. So that is very important. Okay, so now continuing, we saw up to this Vamadeva thing last week also, I think. Then what? Upanishad further. See, one problem with people is they put somebody in a pedestal. Okay, some great guru is there, sage is there, Ramana Maharishi is there, whoever is there. One thinking is what? They are all great people. They understand all these things. They have some special experience and all that. It is not possible for ordinary human being like me. Hey, this thinking is the biggest hindrance. Understand that. If a Ramana can understand, you can understand very easily. You are also a human being. If your guru can understand, you as his student or her student also can understand. There is nothing mystic about this. When it is being taught clearly, when you have the interest to know, when you are ready to change yourself, when you are open to self-transformation, this has to happen. Don't ever think that you cannot know this, or you are, if there is something to be qualified, some preparation needs to be done, take it up with the right attitude, but not with an attitude that somebody is great and I cannot become like that and all that. That itself is a big hindrance. You don't have to have such attitude. Okay, there are many people who have started from wherever they are. Valmiki was a robber. Then he did tapas and he became a great rishi, and finally he understood. Vishwamitra was a great king. He started from there, but then he struggled, and finally even Vasishta had to accept him as a Brahma rishi. Means what? He understood Brahman finally. So people have started from different places. Also understand one more thing. Have always a positive outlook. Of course, positive outlook alone does not help, but try to have that. Why? Because even if it does not happen in this lifetime, don't worry. Bhagavan Krishna says, Nahi kalyana krit kaschite durgatim tata gacchati. He says, the one who has started the study of Vedanta, one who is a karma yogi, jnana yogi. Okay, because Arjuna asked in the 6th chapter about yoga brashta. That means one who is a yogi but somehow did not gain this knowledge fully, properly. He went wayward, whatever, for whatever reason. What will happen to such people? No, Bhagavan says, don't worry. Nahi kalyana krit kaschiti durgatim. There is no durgati for such a person. There is no, that person will not end up in a state of misery or trouble. Okay, even after this life. So he will be born in the family of a yogi. Okay. Yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam, like that Bhagavan says. Or he may live for a long time in some swarga and all that. But that is not, in fact, as a mumukshu, that's not very interesting for you. It is better to be reborn in the family of yogis and those who have this knowledge. Yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. Those who have this knowledge, dhi, amongst them, this person will be born. And tatratam labate buddhi sanyogam paurva devihikam, he says. You will again gain access to whatever knowledge, up to whatever knowledge you had last time, you will gain. You will gain access to that. Because Sukshma Sharira is same. Understand that. Buddhi sanyogam labate paurva devihikam, he says. Whatever buddhi was associated with the previous body, whatever intellect and mind, you will gain access to the same thing now. That's how we can explain prodigies, correct? Otherwise, you can't explain child prodigies. So, Bhagavan gives an assurance here also. So, always, this whole journey should be pleasurable. Vedanta should not be some kind of a very dreary pursuit or anything. Vedanta is one discipline of knowledge which says you are wonderful, you are the limitless, you don't have any problem, in fact. You are complete, you are the whole, you are the source of all happiness, you are Ananda Swarupa. That is Vedanta. It is talking about you gloriously. So the pursuit also should be enjoyable. We never get tired of looking at ourselves in the mirror, even for the physical body. Then what about this? This is the Swarupa which the word mirror of Shruti is showing you, correct? Veda is a word mirror, understand that. I can never know myself as an object because I am eternally a subject. But still I have to know myself. Where do I go? I see the whole world with my eyes, but the eyes cannot see itself, correct? Because the subject can never be the object. But where do I go to see my eyes? I go and stand in front of a mirror. Same thing. To know yourself, where do you go? You go to Vedanta. Vedanta is a word mirror. It is Shastra Darpanam, we call. It is the mirror which shows who you are really. And you never get tired. Once you start learning Vedanta, you never get tired of seeing yourself in the word mirror of Vedanta. It is wonderful always. So the whole journey is also wonderful. And once you understand and transform yourself also, it is wonderful. It is always wonderful only. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidhenam, Bhagavan says. It's all only Ascharya. It is a great wonder. How did I ever take myself as this limited being and even suffer? When I am the limitless being in whom this entire space-time is there. When I am the self of all the beings. Isn't it wonderful? That's a great wonder. Correct? Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidhenam, Ascharyavat vadati. Even talking about this teaching, Vedanta is again wonderful. I am teaching you something through words, which is not the meaning of any one particular word. Why? Because the limitless cannot be restricted to the meaning of any one word. Understand that. But I have to still teach you that only through words. You also have to know something which cannot be objectified by the mind. In fact, which objectifies the mind itself. And which need not be objectified to know, in fact. That has to be known through words, which indicate that reality to you. It's all wonder. Talking about this is wonder. How do anybody know? Anything itself is a wonder, in fact, because everybody can only know through words, let us say. But you have to know the meaning of the words already. Then how are you going to know anything new? Because if you already know the meaning of the words, then when a new word comes, how do you know the meaning of that? It's a complicated thing, but still we do pick up knowledge. Like that, here in fact is simple. All the worldly knowledge is never ending. Understand that. All specialists are nothing but you know more and more about less and less. That is specialist. The objective world can never be known completely. The only thing which can be known fully, completely is yourself, because you are partless whole. The knowledge about yourself is the only thing which can be definitely known as this. All other things are all only appearances, reducible to something else. Somebody else will come and say, this is no, what you are seeing is not this. It is all quarks. It is all something, whatever, I don't know, dark matter, whatever it is. So, the only thing you can know completely is yourself, because you are a partless whole. You are, as a conscious being, you don't have to make any effort to know yourself because you are self-conscious. All you have to do is give up wrong notions about yourself, in fact. So whoever knows like this, tad idamapi etarhi evam veda. Even now, okay, whoever knows in the same manner, correct? And to this day, in fact, tad idam etarhi means right now. Up to this time, even now, whoever knows this, evam veda, in this manner, they know aham brahmasmi iti. Whoever knows in this manner that I am Brahman, what happens to that person? Sa idam sarvam bhavati. That person becomes all, becomes everything, because that person is the self of everything I explained to you. You are Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, in fact. Brahmatma is the only reality which is there. Okay. So I appreciate this vision. I am all. But what about these devas? Will they come and they don't? In fact, later on we'll see there is something called Avidya Sutram. See, the portion we are now seeing is called Brahma Khandika. Because it starts with Brahma, it's called Brahma Khandika, this portion of the Upanishad. So in this Aham Brahmasmi, this Mahavakya we understand means then you are the self of all. You are everything. That is the understanding. You are everything as you are. Understand that. You don't have to become. You are. You are all these things. Then what? Tasyaha na devanscha anabhutya ishate. So what is the meaning that even the devas cannot rule over such a person? Okay. Nobody can rule over this person. Why? So, why? Because he is the self of even the devas. That is the beautiful reply Upanishad is giving. Atma hi esham sa bhavati. For all these devas also, you are the self. Whoever knows Aham Brahmasmi, that person becomes the self of all, including the devas. So what can they do then? The self can never be objectified. So the self can never be. That's why Gita also beautifully Bhagavan says, what? That which is never objectified, how can it be then destroyed? Only objects can be cut, drowned, burned, dried, whatever, correct? Like that, Bhagavan keeps on talking about this Atma cannot be killed in any manner, even though you are sitting in a battlefield and talking about killing. Understand that the Atma can never be killed. It is neither a killer nor can it be killed. That is the nature of Atma. So you are the self of even Devas. So what can they do? They cannot rule over you. They cannot do anything to you, even though they do not like you becoming a jnani. Why? That will come now. That is the beauty here. So up to this is all about Brahma Jnanam only. Now the other part is called Avidya Sutram. See, there is a Vidya Sutram we saw, correct? Atma ityeva upasita. Okay, so know yourself as this complete Atma. That is Vidya Sutram. Now, what is this Avidya Sutram? Those who do not know that, what are they doing? So, that is also Upanishad is clarifying here. Atha yaha anyam devatam upaste. Those who are worshipping devatas, gods we can say, okay, or God, whatever. God is an English term which comes with its own Christian meaning and all that. But in general, devata is our term, much better. Okay, so anyam devatam upaste, like Agni, Indra, or even Vishnu, Shiva, Shakti. Okay, you worship a devata, but what? In which way? Anyaha asau, anyaha ahamasmi iti. See how beautifully it is saying. What the Upanishad is saying here? Asau anyaha. This devata is separate from me. He is someone other than me. And I am somebody who is separate from that devata. Anyaha asau, anyaha aham. Like this, thinking like this, correct? In fact, by thinking that Ishvara is separate from you, you are actually belittling the devata. Why? If Ishvara is really limitless, how can Ishvara be not you? Ishvara has to include you, correct? At least. But even that people do not understand. It's a very simple thing. Anyaha asau anyaha aham. That's how in fact everybody thinks, correct? For this you don't even have to read Vedanta. You go to the road and ask somebody, are you Vishnu? Are you Shiva? Are you Jesus? Whatever. Are you the Christian God? Are you the Muslim God? Allah? Means that fellow will say no. Then there are some people, special people. They study Vedanta for 12 years, 30 years, and finally come to the same conclusion. What is the use then? There is no use. You don't have to study anything to arrive at the conclusion that anyaha asau, anyaha aham. That is avichara siddha. That is already there. Even without any analysis, people are only thinking like that. What is the point in arriving at the same thing? But that's how people are, correct? Normal people who are ignorant think that there is some higher force, higher power, means they look up somehow. So most of the Christians, Muslims and all, you ask, where is God? Means they have to say, they have to look up. God is in heaven. Or you go to some Hare Krishna also, for them Golok Vrindavan. You go to some Vaishnava, they will say Vaikuntha. You go to Shaiva, they will say no, Kailasha. Everybody is looking up. When you are looking up from one place in earth, another person also, if he is looking up from the other side on the earth, he is looking somewhere else, correct? I don't know who is correct then. Up, down and all also is relative, correct? Anyway, so all those things, if they can analyze, means they won't be talking like that. So, the status of ignorant people is what? They are worshipping Ishvara as somebody who is separate from themselves. But that's how they are, correct? At least they are doing this worship. And if they are following a dharmic life, it is still praiseworthy. That's why Bhagavan in Gita says, Chaturvida bhajante mam. 4 ways people are devoted to me. Okay, they are all bhaktas in 4 ways. In which all ways? Artaha means those who think of Ishvara only during some calamity, like this coronavirus pandemic means, okay, now I am praying to God. God, this virus should not come to me. That is Artha Bhakta. Okay. Then Artharthi. Artharthi means regularly this person prays every day. And but he wants to keep Bhagavan as a partner in whatever he is doing. So that he understands Daivam is important. Even though I put all my effort also is important. Correct? Udyamam sahasam dhairyam buddhi shakti parakramaha shadete yatra vartante daivas tatra sahaya kriti. Like that, there is a verses there. So where even anybody has to put in effort, correct, with enthusiasm, without giving up, okay, and with all this intellect, you have to apply your knowledge, you have to apply your power, whatever you have, everything you have to apply. In spite of that, there is always hidden variables. So you have to take care of that also. That is where Daivam. Your own Adrishta Phala is also unfolding all the time. So you want to make sure that Adrishta also you want to take care. That is Artharthi. Artharthi is going along with Ishvara. Praying all the time. Okay, whatever I do, whatever karma I do, it all should be successful. You take care of all the vignas should be overcome. Even if some papa is there on my account, please neutralize that. Like that, you take Ishvara along with you in all your pursuits, which is good. Then Jignasu, those who are tired of all this karma phala and Ishvara also, what is this Ishvara, higher power and all, what is the nature of that Ishvara really? I want to know. So you are now interested in something else. Okay, Jignasu. Then Jnani, the one who knows the nature of Ishvara as not separate from oneself, in fact. So Bhagavan says, Udara sarva evaite. All these people are Udaraha, means they are all praiseworthy people. Okay. So anybody who is a Dharmika, who is a devotee, who is a Bhakta, is praiseworthy. But he says, Tesham Jnani, amongst all of them, but Jnani is still great. Bhagavan says. Why? Aham sacha mama priyaha and all he says. So he is my beloved. Jnani is my beloved. And even for Jnani, I am his beloved. Why? He says, Jnani to atmaiva me matam. He says, Jnani is myself only. Jnani is not separate from me. Myself and Jnani's self are not separate. In fact, Jnani is myself. The one who knows that I am not separate from Ishvara, that Jnani is also a Bhakta. Understand that there is no difference between Bhakti, Jnana and all that. Bhakti is not some emotional thing. Bhakti involves a lot of understanding. From emotional Bhakti, it has to lead to Jnana. Otherwise also you are a praiseworthy person, but you cannot be considered a Jnani. Understand that. Bhakti, without Bhakti there is no Jnana, in fact. And a Jnani will always appreciate Bhakti also. Because Jnani also is a Bhakta, really. You can be a Jnani and still be a Bhakta in this transactional world. There is no problem in that. You are free still. Correct? Anyway, so the one who worships the Devatas as somebody who is other than oneself, Anyaha asau Anyaha aham asmi iti. What is that person's problem? Means Nasa Veda Upanishad. He doesn't know. He is ignorant. He doesn't know the reality. And what is his status? His status is pathetic. What? Yatha Pashuhu Evam Sa Devana. Like even the cow is for you, the human being. That person is for the Devas. That person for Deva is like a cow. Why? Because he is offering the Devas everything. Correct? He is doing yajna. He is offering worship. Whether he is actually doing a Vaidika yajna or some other puja, he is offering to the Devas. So Devas are getting their offerings only from this person. Like even the cow is giving you milk every day. This person is offering to the Devas. So this person is like a cow to the Devas. And if you have cows, like our desi cows, nice desi cows, and enjoy their milk every day, will you like to lose your cows? Tell me. In fact, I would not like to lose my cows, correct? I enjoy their milk so much. I am blessed to have desi cows and I can afford to get fresh milk every day. I love milk. Then I would not like to lose my cows, correct? Like that, Devas also then will not like to lose this person. So that also Upanishad is explaining here beautifully. What? Yatha havai bahavaha pachavaha manushyam bhunjuhu. Okay. So, bahavaha pashavaha manushyam bhunjuhu means what? Many cows serve a person, correct? Or one person enjoys the whatever many cows are giving him, correct? So, bahavaha pashavaha manushyam bhunjuhu. So, like how many cows are serving or making one person enjoy their produce. Evam ekaikaha purushaha devan bhunakti. So similar to that, what each and every ignorant person like this, who is offering the devatas something to get something in return. Okay, they are all only serving the devas. All these people, they are all serving only the devatas. Okay. Then what? Ekasmin neva pashau adiyamane apriyam bhavati. Okay, in this scenario, what? Even see, you are having many cows. Amongst them, even if one cow is taken away, adiyamane means it has been taken away, let us say. Then what? Will you be happy? No, you won't be happy. I don't want to lose any of my cows. I enjoy their milk. They are wonderful. So I will be unhappy. Apriyam bhavati, adiyamane apriyam bhavati. So even if one cow goes away, the yajamana will feel unhappy, will not be happy. Then what? Kimu bahushu. Then what to talk about if many animals go away? Okay. Similarly, what? Tasmat yesham tanna priyam. Therefore, what? For these devas, it is not priya. It is not. They do not like something. What is that? Yed etan manushyaha vidyuhu. That these people, these manushyaha, they know this truth. Aham brahmasmi. That is not liked by the devas. It is saying. This Upanishad is saying. Because then they will not be interested in doing all this yajna. Correct? Because you have understood you are not even a karta bhokta. You are not a doer. You are not an enjoyer. The doer is evident to you. Enjoyer is evident to you. You are that conscious being who is neither a doer nor an enjoyer. So what is there to be done? There is really nothing to be done. Even then you can do something. That's a different thing. Bhagavan says, in Gita also he says, I don't have anything to be, nahi kaschit kartavyam, he says. There is nothing to be done from my standpoint. But still I do. Why? Otherwise the people, because people follow great people, correct? People follow leaders. Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tattadeva itaro janaha, he says. Whatever is followed by the shreshta, great people, leaders, that only others also do. Therefore, varta eva karmani, he says. I am doing still whatever is to be done because people follow me. But from my own standpoint, I don't have to do anything. There is nothing to be done for me because I am not a karta bhukta. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashaha tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam, he says. Even though I have created this entire universe with 4 varnas, etc., know that I am neither the doer nor did I change in any way. I am the invariable, unchanged akarta only, he says. Vidhi aham akartaram avyayam, like that. So you are not a karta anymore. Then what is there to be done? Nothing is there to be done for you. And if nothing is there to be done, then these devas and all will not get their offerings from you, correct? They have lost you. It is like they have lost one cow. They cannot milk you anymore. So they do not want you to know. But even these devas, they are powerless. Once you gain this jnana, nobody can stop you. Because jnanam alone is moksha here. This moksha cannot be stopped by any deva or anybody. If you know who you are, nobody can stop you from owning up as this limitless conscious being, which is you. Even though they do not like it, they cannot really stop you. In fact, later on, Bhashyakara will tell that. So we'll see the Bhashya from next week onwards. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद।